In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and a dense forest, there stood a small weathered house. Its wooden beams creaked with age, and its thatched roof bore the marks of countless storms. The house was perched at the edge of the village, where the cobblestone path gave way to wild grass and the whispers of the forest. It was here that a young girl named Lila lived with an old woman named Marin. Lila was 12 years old, with wide, curious eyes and a mop of unruly brown hair that she rarely bothered to tame. She had come to live with Marin 2 years ago, after her parents had succumbed to a fever that swept through the village. Marin, who had no children of her own, had taken Lila in without hesitation. The villagers often whispered about Marin, calling her a witch or a hermit, but Lila knew better. Marin was kind though stern, and she had a way of seeing things that others could not. The house was small but cozy, with a single room that served as both kitchen and living space, and a loft where Lila slept. Marin's bed was tucked into a corner, surrounded by shelves filled with jars of herbs, dried flowers, and strange trinkets. A fire always burned in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The air was always filled with the scent of rosemary, thyme, and something else, something mysterious that Lila could never quite place. Marin spent her days tending to her garden, gathering herbs from the forest, and brewing remedies for the villagers. Though they were wary of her, they still came to her for help when their children fell ill or their crops failed. Lila often accompanied Marin on her errands, watching in awe as the old woman worked her magic. She longed to learn Marin's secrets, but the old woman was tight-lipped, saying only, "All in good time, child." One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves turned gold and the air grew sharp with the promise of winter, Lila woke to find Marin sitting by the fire, her face pale and drawn. The old woman was clutching a piece of parchment, her hands trembling. "What is it?" Lila asked, her voice tinged with concern. Marin looked up, her eyes clouded with worry. "A letter," she said softly. "From the capital. They've heard of my abilities. They want me to come and serve the king." Lila's heart sank. "But you can't leave. What will happen to us?" Marin shook her head. "I have no intention of going. But they will not take no for an answer. They will come for me, and when they do, they will take you too." Lila felt a chill run down her spine. "What can we do?" Marin hesitated, then reached into the folds of her dress and pulled out a small silver key. "There is a way," she said, "but it is dangerous. You must be brave, Lila." Lila nodded, her eyes wide. "I'm not afraid." Marin smiled faintly. "Good. Listen carefully. Deep in the forest, there is a tree unlike any other. Its roots run deep, and its branches touch the sky. At its base there is a door. This key will unlock it. Inside, you will find something that can protect us. But you must hurry. They will be here by nightfall." Lila took the key, her fingers trembling. "What will I find?" Marin's expression grew solemn. "You will know it when you see it. But beware. The forest is not what it seems. It will try to deceive you. Trust your instincts and do not stray from the path." With that, Marin handed Lila a small satchel containing a piece of bread, a flask of water, and a sprig of rosemary for protection. Lila slung the satchel over her shoulder and stepped out into the cool morning air. The forest loomed before her, dark and foreboding, but she squared her shoulders and set off down the narrow path. The forest was alive with sounds, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds, the distant howl of the wind. But as Lila ventured deeper, the sounds grew strange and distorted. The trees seemed to close in around her, their branches twisting into grotesque shapes. Shadows danced at the corners of her vision, and she felt as though she were being watched. She pressed on, clutching the key tightly in her hand. After what felt like hours, she came to a clearing. In the center stood a massive tree, its trunk gnarled and ancient. Its roots twisted and turned like serpents, and its branches reached high into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. At the base of the tree was a small wooden door, barely visible beneath the roots. Lila knelt down and inserted the key into the lock. With a soft click, the door swung open, revealing a dark, narrow passage. She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and stepped inside. The passage was damp and cold, and the air was thick with the scent of earth and decay. Lila felt her way along the walls, her heart pounding in her chest. After what felt like an eternity, the passage opened up into a large, cavernous room. The walls were lined with shelves, each one filled with jars and bottles containing strange, glowing liquids. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it rested a small, intricately carved box. Lila approached the pedestal, her breath catching in her throat. She reached out and touched the box, and as she did, a warm golden light filled the room. The box opened on its own, revealing a small silver pendant in the shape of a tree. Lila picked it up, feeling a surge of energy course through her. As she turned to leave, she heard a voice, a soft melodic whisper that seemed to come from all around her. "Take it," the voice said. "But remember, with great power comes great responsibility." Lila nodded, though she wasn't sure if the voice could see her. She slipped the pendant around her neck and hurried back through the passage, the light from the pendant guiding her way. When she emerged from the tree, the forest seemed different, lighter somehow. The shadows were gone, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers. She made her way back to the house, her heart racing with anticipation. Marin was waiting for her by the fire, her face drawn with worry. When she saw the pendant around Lila's neck, her eyes filled with tears. "You found it," she whispered. "The heart of the forest. It is more powerful than I dared to hope." Lila frowned. "What does it do?" Marin smiled. "It protects those who wear it. As long as you have it, no harm can come to you or to me. But we must be careful. The king's men will not give up so easily." As if on cue, there was a loud knock at the door. Lila's heart leapt into her throat, but Marin placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Stay close to me," she said. Marin opened the door to reveal a group of soldiers, their armor gleaming in the firelight. At their head was a tall, stern-looking man with a sharp jaw and cold, calculating eyes. "Marin of the forest," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "By order of the king, you are to come with us." Marin stood her ground, her eyes blazing with defiance. "I will not." When the light faded, the soldiers were gone, and the door was closed. Lila looked at Marin, her eyes wide with shock. "What happened?" Marin smiled. "The heart of the forest protects us. But we must be vigilant. The king will not stop until he has what he wants." From that day on, Lila and Marin lived in peace, but they knew that their safety was fragile. The pendant gave them strength, but it also drew the attention of those who sought to use its power for their own gain. Together they guarded the heart of the forest, knowing that as long as they stood together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, in their small house at the edge of the village, Lila and Marin continued to live their quiet lives, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The villagers still whispered about the old woman and the girl, But they no longer feared them. They knew that Marin and Lila were not witches or hermits. They were protectors, guardians of a power that was as ancient as the forest itself. And in the heart of the forest, the great tree stood tall and proud, its roots running deep, its branches touching the sky. A silent sentinel watching over the small house and the two souls who called it home.